Good morning, my name is Jake Jensen. This is my presentation on immigration and its effects on the American economy. Most of my research on this and opinion, a lot of it is based upon the 2 years of my life that I lived right on the U.S. border in the state of Sonora, just right across from Tucson, Arizona. I had the privilege of living there and working with the people doing a lot of different humanitarian and religious work. During that time, I was able to see firsthand what it's like to live right on the border and firsthand what it's like for many of these people with their day-to-day struggle just to be able to survive. I think that has a lot of the reason why I've kind of formed my opinions the way I have. With that said, this has truly become one of the hottest topics in our country in the last few years. This topic of immigration, is it right, is it wrong, is it hurting the economy, or is it a necessary part of the American infrastructure? I believe that there's kind of a happy median on both sides, and that's kind of what I'd like to explore today during this presentation. More or less right now, there are two main camps on a solution to this problem. I'd like to refer to them in general by one of these two names. First, I like to refer to as pro-nationalists. These are people that believe that the current immigration trends are hurting the American economy and hurting the infrastructure of our country as well by weakening the American way of life. The second of these groups I would refer to as pro-immigrationalists. These are people who more or less believe that the foundation of the American lifestyle is free and open immigration. They're a lot more sympathetic towards the personal needs and also personal lives of the individual immigrants who come across the border. As of recent months, this group that I like to refer to as the pro-nationalists have definitely grown in size and number due to a whole array of different reasons. One of these definitely is the intensified media attention that they're getting. More or less, they support that we need to have a tougher border, increase limitations on immigrants who apply for visas, and extremely tougher penalties on those who are caught in this country illegally. They're generally in support of troops being on the U.S. border to secure that as well. Right now, one of the big things with them is they would like to build a fence along the U.S. border and put more United States military personnel on the border to secure that and to almost turn in kind of a military zone, keeping people from entering the United States illegally. There are many different groups that follow this movement. Some are more mainstream, others are more radical. For example, just a few examples of these are the American Immigration Control Foundation, the California Coalition for Immigration Reform, the Federation for American Immigration Reform, and the National Organization for European American Rights. It must be noted that some are a lot more radical than others. For example, the National Organization for European American Rights is basically a Ku Klux Klan knockoff that's now gotten into the whole border conflict. Others are a lot less radical than that. It's important to note that as well. Pro-immigrationists, the second group, mainly consists of people who in general are more sympathetic towards the needs and the reasons why people are quote-unquote jumping the border. They support new reform ideas such as improved visa procedures. Also, they're all about a guest worker program, as has been talked about a lot recently, and also for assisting those who are already in the United States in gaining citizenship and having the ability to pay their dues and taxes. Just in general, they're opposed to the militarization of the border and also building a wall there. They compare it a lot to what happened between East and West Germany, citing that we all can see that that didn't work out very well for them. I truly do believe in order to form an opinion about this matter, you need to explore the situations not only from the American side of the border, but from the Mexican side of the border. For those of you who have not been to Mexico or Latin America, it's a very beautiful, very colorful society. It's just very deep and very rich with tradition, unlike any other place in the world. Mexico specifically has a great history at that, dating back to some of the first civilizations of our society and mankind in general. Mexico also has been blessed with an array of freedoms and also a lot of prosperity and poverty due to such freedom. Their economy right now suffers from a 3.6 unemployment rate plus an underemployment rate of 25% or more. When we're talking about underemployment rate, we're talking about people who, yes, currently do have a job, but it's not enough to provide for their economical needs. That is a huge problem in Mexico right now. We're talking about people who can work 12-hour days doing manual labor and be paid the equivalent of the U.S. $10. There's a huge problem with underemployment right now. In 2003, 40% of the population lived at or below the poverty level. And there's no comparison in that in comparison to the United States, in a nation where 40%, almost half of your population, is living under or below what we consider to be the poverty level. As a direct effect of this economic struggle and these economic problems they're having down there, it's kind of easy to understand why people would want to make their way north in the United States, where you can make 10 times more money and have just in general, higher quality of living standards in life. It's interesting to note that somebody working a $6 an hour minimum wage job in the United States in one day will make as much as they make in a week in Mexico. For this reason, it's pretty easy to see why this year, in 2006, they're estimating that over 3 million people will cross the U.S. border in from Mexico or from other places in Latin America. Now, we've all seen pictures on TV, we've all heard the stories of what happens when people cross the desert, crossing the border. I think it's really interesting if you live there. I've had the opportunity to sit right on International Street, right across from Douglas, Arizona, on the Mexican side of the border in Agua Prieta, Sonora, and watch people with milk jugs on their back start walking across the border and just seeing what they're willing to sacrifice for that. Many people just flat out just wait for the immigration people to not be looking, and they jump the border and take off running. Right across the border in Douglas, Arizona, there's a whole bunch of industrial buildings right there. And what they do is they send one person running across as a decoy. The Border Patrol, or the Migra, takes off after that one person. Then as soon as they've passed, 30 people will jump the fence and run to the industrial park, and they can never catch up. That's a very common way where other people outside of the main towns just start walking across the desert till they reach a highway and they get picked up there. With that said, you can see that many people are willing to sacrifice many things in order to come to the United States. Now the question must be stated, is it worth it for us to be spending millions and millions of dollars every single year to pay for health care and pay for the education and to pay for all these needs of these illegal migrant workers who are not paying taxes and feeding into the American economic system? Now, I feel that somewhere in the middle of both the ideas of the pro-nationalist and pro-immigration groups, there can be found a humane solution to this triangle dilemma. In total honesty, both sides have ideas that if they were united, it'd form a very productive solution to this not-so-black-and-white question. By stealing off the borders, as the pro-nationalists suggest, there will be a greater influence upon both immigrants and employers to have members of the immigration workforce go through the proper legal channels in order to enter the country and to therefore gain employment. Also, with stricter penalties need to be enforced upon employers who employ undocumented workers. Then, as the pro-immigrationists present, we need to reform our immigration procedures. We need to make it actually possible for people to get visas. One of the huge reasons why people are not getting visas in Mexico and why they're illegally entering the country is because, quite frankly, it's a horrible and difficult process to get a visa. I also believe that the only way we can fix the current problem with immigrants who are already here in the United States is to give them the opportunity to become citizens through a type of amnesty, to give them a chance to pay taxes and to give them a chance to be a part of the American infrastructure. Most of these immigrants truly want to pay taxes. Most of them truly want to be a part of the American infrastructure. They just don't have the chance, or they're too afraid that if they try to become citizens, that they'll just get deported. I truly believe this is the way that both sides can be happy. I think this is truly the way that all of the needs or the current problems that we have can be addressed. I think right in between both sides of this argument, right in between the pro-nationalists and right in between the pro-immigrationists, you can find this happy median where everybody and everybody's needs are truly satisfied.